Hello, Facebook friends, Facebook family, Facebook world. You're probably wondering, who is this sitting in Dr. Rosensweet's seat? Well, don't worry, Dr. Rosensweet is sitting next to me, and it is my honor and privilege to be the guest on today's show. My name is Catherine Hickland. Some of you may know me from the soap opera One Life to Live, where I had a great time playing that bad girl, Lindsay Rappaport, for 11 years. And then when I retired from acting, which was a 38-year career, I became a hypnotist, and I am a hypnotherapist. And I specialize, of course, in emotions and relationships. And Dr. Rosensweet is part of my family. So I am very proud of Dr. Rosensweet because he is one of the finest people on the subject of emotions, menopause, anything medically related, really. And I Wonder Doctor is his wonderful, wonderful, it's a TV studio we're in right now, and he has a Facebook page called I Wonder Doctor, which you probably know because you're watching that right now. You might be watching on YouTube. My page is also live right now, and I just want to say hi to everybody because you know I love my Facebook friends and family like a crazy person. So I really am just excited to be here because today we are going to talk about all kinds of things. We're going to talk about anxiety and emotions, and in a little while later we're going to talk about menopause. I know, I see the men's faces just glazing over at the word, but you know what? I would stay tuned for that later too, because sometimes, you know, you don't really understand what it is that your wife or your girlfriend is going through and what it does and what it causes. And we're also going to talk about how you can diffuse that and actually make it work in your favor. Because I am 62 years old, let me assure you I know a lot about what it feels like to go through that. But first I want to bring in Dr. Rosensweet, since this is actually his show, and then we're going to talk about what's going on with you. By all means, type your questions below as we go. Someone's going to give them to us, and we're going to get to those. So why don't I just go ahead and bring in Dr. David Rosensweet. Hello.
Hiya, Kat.
I'm so excited.
Since you're staying with us, I've seen you blessedly for the last 3 days.
That's exactly right, and I'm so happy to be here. We're in Sarasota, Florida, by the way. I flew in from Las Vegas, where I live, and I'm just thrilled not only to be staying with you, but to be on this show, which is an incredible thing you do live. And you know, people ask me all the time. I'm a hypnotherapist, but I also do hypnosis shows. I do over 100 shows every year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's for entertainment. And you know, of course, I have family-friendly shows. I don't abuse the privilege of being an entertainer in that fashion. But one of the things that people ask me about every single show, and not one, but many, many, men and women, it's about anxiety, about they can't sleep. Women don't sleep. They don't sleep. I know this. If anybody's out there, can I get an amen? Because they don't sleep. And anxiety is another theme, and among younger people too, not just people our age, but young people today. Young have anxiety. So I want to go over that because some people just know what it feels like, or maybe they don't even know what it is. They just know that they feel like they can't think through a problem, and a lot of people have can't get over somebody, and that causes all kinds of feelings. So
there's about a million topics that just popped up here.
It's exactly right, but yeah. I'm really,
they're the best ones.
They're the
most important things that are going on for people.
Well, it is, because you know, some people actually could need to be medicated for anxiety or depression, because that is a very real thing where it's a chemical imbalance. But there's a lot of people that are probably medicated that don't need to be, that they just haven't been taught the tools about how to help themselves through this. And I really do understand this as well, because I lived in New York City during 9/11. And I'd never known an anxious moment in my life, and I could not think my way through a minute after that, because I didn't want to live in New York City anymore. It was just a tragedy, and it affected us so much.
Changed everybody's lives.
It just filled me full of fear, and isn't that what anxiety is, right?
Well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
I think the human race is always experienced tension. and you know, fear and sadness and anger throughout the whole history of being human.
Yes.
And acted it out like crazy through wars and marital abuses and you know, all children abuses. But there were so many primary can I survive issues going on that people learned to go out there and fight to survive, and they also learned how to repress all kinds of uncomfortable feelings. And we're in a new era here.
Ooh, let's remember that, about repressing uncomfortable feelings, because that's something I really want to come back to. So somebody in the crew remember that, but that's a biggie.
I'll remember it because, and then it changed in the course of my lifetime. I mean, I grew up in an era where World War II was going on, and you know, the parental generation at that time were preoccupied with surviving the war and surviving physically. And then they gave birth to a whole new generation of folks where time and space opened up in the United States. And all of a sudden, and there was also evolution of consciousness. And all of a sudden, lots of folks became aware of what their parental generation was repressing or out there just duking it out with the world or each other. And so anxiety is sort of like a 20th century word because people became aware that they were uncomfortable. Whereas before this time, in general, you know, you can only speak in general, there was very few folks who were aware that they were anxious. They had it repressed so deeply, and oh my God, it just takes the body apart.
It does. I think we were talking about this at dinner last night, and about how repression happens in so many ways. But for me, anyway, I notice that when you have an uncomfortable feeling, you just sweep it under the carpet. Don't want to deal with it.
And you press it into your... And the problem is that interferes with living. And just like an abscess, those uncomfortable feelings constantly want to come to the surface. They come to the surface of your mind. They come to the surface in relationships. They come to the surface in world politics. And then because they're so unpopular, and because there's a quantity issue, there's a lot of uncomfortable feelings, people either learn to repress them, or these things are intense. I mean, people are taking very heavy-duty street drugs, pharmaceutical medications. They got all kinds of diversionary activities like eating disorders, sex disorders, relationship disorders, is they're constantly trying to medicate. They go down. When these feelings rise, they feel lousy. They want to feel up. They're going to take something to repress them back down, alcohol, drugs, workaholism, get real busy. And they're going to do something called blame their spouse, blame their fellow workers. It's called projection.
Okay, let's remember that too, because people project all the time. And they don't know they're doing it.
That's right. And they think it is.
Let me just say this. We don't know we're doing it because I'm not exempt from any of this that we're talking about. I've just learned how the mind works. That's my work. And I am able to recognize now old behaviors that don't serve me anymore, and that would be one of them. I would hope I don't project on people anymore, but I know...
You're probably much better at it. And you know, what's the opposite of projection? It's being personally responsible, which means when you start getting uncomfortable, instead of blaming the other party, the political party, or your spouse, or your girlfriend or boyfriend, or someone at work, you go, wait a minute, there's an elephant in this room, and I'm uncomfortable. I don't know what they're doing, really, but I do know that I'm very uncomfortable. Well, that's the general term, uncomfortable. But if you start lifting repression by focusing on what's really going on, you get beyond these diffuse words like anxiety and depression, because inside every anxiety and depression, there is an uncomfortable feeling, a very basic one.
Okay, so in my book, The 30-Day Heartbreak Cure, which was a passion for me to write, because I think that people, if they had the tools to get out of these feelings, or to get out of this grief and all this story that holds them back from being whole and happy again. I said, you have to learn to be comfortable with your uncomfortability. But there's no such word as uncomfortability, so don't look it up because it doesn't exist. It's just...
It's a good term. It's the general term, but it always gets specific when you start paying attention to it. And what the specific is, you're either feeling fear, or sadness, or anger, or shame, or guilt, or emptiness, or loneliness, or meaninglessness, or powerlessness. It's one of those words, but they are only pointers towards a really uncomfortable feeling.
So I know how I feel about what being comfortable with your uncomfortability means, but there's so, I want you to tell.
Let's get technical.
Let's get technical, because I think that that is where
statement.
A lot of people are going to learn to break out of this, or begin to break.
So here's the total key to the highway around uncomfortable feelings.
Let's go down that highway.
It's to, first of all, you get personally aware that, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable inside myself. And then you ask yourself, when I feel uncomfortable, what am I feeling? Because that's the key operative, it's feeling. And you pay attention and you go, this isn't vague uncomfortable, I'm angry. Once you make it to anger or fear or sadness or that list, you're just about home. And then the next thing you do is you just feel it. And you feel it, and you feel it, and you feel it. You allow the uncomfortable feeling,
whether it's anger,
whatever it is,
whatever, yes, the emotion causing
to be exactly the energy it is.
Yes.
The analogy I love is I have two granddaughters, and when one of my granddaughters was about 5, we were coming home from the playground. We had had a great time, and all of a sudden she started to get frightened, out of the blue, which often happens. This stuff comes out of the blue. And I said, come here, honey. Let me just sit in my lap. Let me just hold you. You just go ahead and feel exactly what you're feeling. It looks like you're afraid. You just go ahead and feel it. Well, given the permission that what she was doing was okay, she started crying and really feeling her fear. And within minutes, all of a sudden, the cry turns to, and then she's down on the floor playing. And what I did in that case is I was just a safe space for her. I just accepted what was going on in her. And this is what we need to learn to do for ourselves. We need to recognize what we feel, we need to feel it, we need to accept it. And what acceptance means is you allow the feeling to be exactly what it is. I'm not saying you heal the feeling. I'm not saying you change the feeling.
Just don't allow it to be.
Allow it to be exactly what it is.
Yes.
Because that's the magic. I mean, anyone who's been sad and sad for days and then all of a sudden cries, in most cases, unless it's some really chronic, deeply uncomfortable life issue, the tears are the great relief. They're the great medicine.
I know what you probably aren't thinking about it right now, but I remember about 10 years ago, I flew down from New York to be with you and my sister, Kim, and you did something with me. It was a 3-day detox. And oh, I was so used to sweeping everything I felt that was negative under the carpet. And then what happened? One day that carpet just came up. I guess I was doing a little vacuuming, and poof, it just went into my face, right? But what really happened was that all of the stuff that we're not dealing with, I was making bad choices in my life. I had a career that was working brilliantly. My personal life was suffering. And subconsciously, I was making a lot of bad choices about relationships, about all kinds of things. And it wasn't, I really shouldn't use the word bad choices, but they were choices with consequences I wasn't enjoying, right? And so when I was working with you 10 years ago in this fashion in which we're sharing right now with the people watching, I wept and I wept and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. And I wasn't used to crying because I was a man-up girl. And I cried for a whole day in your office. And you said to me, and I was trying not to, I was trying to man up. And you said, don't do that. Let it flow. There's gold in the tears. Those were your words. And those words freed me to be able to get my emotions out, not only that day, but every day for the since. And so when I work with someone in a hypnotherapy setting, they are crying usually within 2 minutes.
That's really good.
And that's what I say. This is really good. Whether it's a man or a woman,
exactly.
they're weeping, and we haven't even had them close their eyes yet. And so this is something I really believe in, is that you get it out and stop trying to man up. I mean, of course you have to move on with your life.
Well, you get the opportunity to move on, but the thing, I'd like to break out what you just said, because you described it perfectly. The next level of skill beyond getting it out is you don't even have to get it out. That's what's really interesting. Crying's the best. It's the gold standard. But you don't have to. All you have to do is become aware in your own consciousness, oh, I'm sad. And then feel the sadness. That's the heavy lifting. And you just sit there and you become the parent to your own self. You become the safe space. You said, I've gone days where I woke up and I felt fear. And I would just say, okay, just breathe, feel the fear, and go out and be a doctor, because that's what you got on your schedule today.
Yes.
But don't lose sight of it. Allow it to be the fear that it is. And it's just giving that amount of love to it. Well, why do I say love? Because it's an act of unconditional love. You're accepting yourself with no conditions. I feel fear, I accept the fear. And the heavy lifting is around, it's not heavy lifting, it's realizing that it is fear and feeling the fear. And not saying, now I'm going to change that, or I'm going to get positive. So you gave the wonderful example of someone feeling it like you did and just cried.
Yes.
That's being one with. I mean, watch anyone who's crying, watch any child that cries. They are one with sadness. That's the gold standard. But you can do the same with fear and anger and hopelessness and powerlessness. I did this on a session last week, went on a call-in session on a Wonder Doctor. The man felt powerless. And I said, Walter, just stay with your powerlessness. Let's feel it. Just feel it. Your mind identified it as powerlessness. Now just breathe and feel with it. I'm going to go silent. You just breathe and feel it. And he did. I could, he was doing it. He followed it. And then minutes later he goes, I said, what do you feel now? He said, well, I feel some relief. And isn't that why I'm mentioning that? Because that's the whole process. And it can take place, I mean, some of those deep all-day cries, they're priceless. But
well, I was only doing that because you and I were working together all day. It was a 3-day session, and so you were, and it was after that I wrote my book, because I was so inspired by the fact that we can heal ourselves in this way. And of course, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, at least for me, I'm a Christian. I do pray. I pray from my soul, and I don't wait until my life completely falls apart, because I also pray to think, So, I have a system for myself. However, I think I want to ask a question.
Let's go to the prayer for a minute.
Okay.
In preparation for any genuine prayer, there comes a moment where anyone who prays knows there's varying degrees of prayer. And then there's that moment where you're at the end and you need and you're ready to turn it over to a higher power, or to God, or whatever language we want to use.
Right.
And you know those moments where you're really there. You've arrived at the gate and you realize that it's got to come from somewhere else. So I'm just saying that this is a wonderful preparation for the deepest of prayers.
It is, and the more broken down you are, I think the more sincere the prayer is, because you are on your knees, and you are one with it.
Exactly.
If I could, I would like to ask a question that I think some people might be wondering, because you and I talk this language all the time. But so if you become one with your emotions,
exactly what's going on in yourself,
which causes all kinds of illnesses in the body, because everything's starting in the mind, right?
So much of it is, yeah.
And so your mind, the body takes brilliant direction from the mind. So if you're feeling good, and you're feeling happy, and you're feeling, all that, well, you have energy, and you feel it's good. You feel
That's
it.
medicine.
Right. You're I call that your inner superhero, when you feel like you can do anything. And even really sad people have days like that. Okay, that's tapping into your inner superhero, even if it's for an hour or a minute or a day or a period of days. But if we're saying to become one with that feeling, right? The negative feeling. That's
and what I mean by becoming one with is all you do is you become aware that you're having a feeling and you feel it. That's becoming one with it.
Right.
And then you accept it, which means you don't put any conditions on it. You don't say, and I'm feeling it as a technique to get rid of it. No, 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 no.
Okay.
I'm just with it. I'm with myself for exactly as I am for however long it takes. And I wanted to back up 1 minute, sorry, Kat, but you had the gold standard, the all day, but this can be done in minutes.
Right.
It can happen many times a day. It doesn't have to be these grand and beautiful life-relieving sessions. In fact, better that you should be able to recognize it throughout your day and live your life, and then if you feel sad, feel the sad. You'll be amazed of how quickly something can lift if you'll just become one with it, or shall I say, recognize it and feel it and accept it.
Right, because I think people have been taught that they need to do something to change it immediately.
Exactly.
So that's the question that I think a lot of people watching right now will have. Well, what do you mean? Well, if I'm sitting with it, how do I get out of it?
It's a natural process.
Right.
It doesn't take, I use the analogy of a loving parent. Their child's upset. You don't say to the child, you go in your bedroom and you stay in that bedroom until you feel better. You go in there and you change that. That's one technique. Here's another technique. Come here, honey. You're not feeling well. Sit in my lap. I'm going to go quiet. I'm just going to hold you. You're crying. You feel afraid. That's fine. I'm just going to hold you. We'll just sit here. What technique works? Loving acceptance. The parent is accepting the child for exactly where they are in the moment. You know, in minutes, usually if life is decent for the child, it works. Love works. Acceptance works.
So we are parenting ourselves.
Precisely.
That's what we're learning right now.
That's one of the things we're on earth to do, is we can be parented. It doesn't even matter if we weren't properly parented. Everyone.
Which most people aren't.
Who is?
I know him. This is not Leave It to Beaver
There
Land.
are a few,
I know. Yeah, there are a few, but it's not
But one
normal.
job for everyone, no matter what went on in our childhood, and I mean no matter what went on in our childhood, we have the job of becoming good parents, so to speak, to ourselves, of learning how to take care of ourselves. And it's easy to take care of ourselves when we're having fun.
Yes.
The real work to do is learning how to take care of ourselves when we're not feeling okay. And I gave you the whole technique. I mean, that'll do it most every time. It's feel what you're feeling, accept it, allow it to be what it is, you watch. It'll evaporate in a very short period of time.
Well, that's great, but here's what I want to ask about too, because I know that I still have issues with getting over people that make me crazy, you know. And so a lot of when I post on Facebook, I really read all of the posts that come in, and people say, they're hurt, they're wronged, this person did this to them, did that to them, and I get it. I've had people betray me, and friends, you know, employees, bosses, parents. I mean, you know, I've been betrayed. I know what that feels like, and isn't that really what it is when someone hurts us that we know or love, and it matters to us so much that it makes us really feel intense sadness and grief?
Let's break out why it is so intense and why it seems to matter so much. In most instances, it matters so much because they're triggering something that's much deeper in us. So you live I'm giving an example of, you live with somebody, they're your intimate partner, and one morning you walk into the bedroom and their socks are on the floor, and you get upset. Why did you get upset? You could go so far as to say, they left their socks on the floor again. I've told them 50 times. They don't care about me. Nobody cares about me. I mean, I can't stand it. I'm like an invisible person. I'm nothing. And they betray me every day. They promise they're going to pick their socks up and they don't do it. I mean, it can go so deep because we carry these deep uncomfortable feelings. And so it's so easy to be triggered anywhere in the world, and there's an accuracy to it. Because until we understand that we we're going to feel afraid, we're going to be sad, we're going to feel betrayed, we're going to be violated, until the moment that we connect all the way up with who we really are. Mm-hmm. We're at home in who we are. And anyone who does that, whether it's for a minute or for their lifetime, they feel connected to the divine. What word do you want to use? We're one with, because really we're living energy of love. We're a spark of the divine. We have the divine living in us. And these are words, they're a little challenging to mention, but unless we're feeling that, mm-hmm. we're walking around on pins and needles because we don't feel right.
Yeah.
And then we're really wide open for any kind of thing that we think people are doing. Because what can they trigger? They can trigger, I'm alone, I'm lonely, I'm isolated. Well, that's the truth. And to the extent that we're not in the moment, present in the moment, seeing the beauty of life, feeling the love that we are, we're going to feel very vulnerable. And we're open to all kinds of stuff, which are just stories. Because let's say, for example, someone is betrayed. Let's say...
I like that one because a lot of people
but what would be an example of being betrayed?
Someone turning on you for no real apparent reason, or betraying your confidence. If you shared something that was really deep with you and they told someone or a number of people, or betrayal, a cheating, a person that is cheated on. Now, this is big, this is a big one.
It's the biggest.
It is.
That's about as big as it gets.
It is, and yeah. I hear from a lot of people that literally that's happening out there. So,
and we know there's severe stuff happening out there. But here's, the human race is in general, not everybody, and some more and some less, is in a relative place most of the time of being relatively unconscious. And that means there are couples that come together and they feel like they're falling in love. And what's actually going on is they're failing to see the whole person that they've met up with. And in the early phases of relationship, sometimes both of us are in a dream state where we're just seeing the beauty in the other person, and we're failing to see their weaknesses. And like I heard a story the other day of a woman, of when she connected up with this man. Very soon she started to see that he was a player. He was going out to dinner with her, and he was looking around and, looking at the other women in the restaurant.
In front of her?
In front of her. And you know what? She registered that.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
That's hard to miss.
She registered it, but she kept on going forward.
Oh.
And she went even so far as to marry this man. And, and then many years later, the man started having major affairs, mm-hmm. and then they finally divorced. But that took up. So we could say that she was betrayed, but we could also say that had she been awake and paying attention to the very things that she was registering, mm-hmm. she would have gone, oh no, I'm not going with, he looks like a very successful man, and he's a very, very friendly and very outgoing, but hey, I see this other behavior. In fact, one of my favorite things to do with young women patients that I've had is to say, try and flush the man out in the open pretty early on.
Right.
So you're sitting in a restaurant, and the man is talking away and telling about his life, and up comes the waitress, and she's waiting for your order, and the man is still talking, telling the woman about what a wonderful job he has and how great life is. Mm-hmm. He's not paying attention to the waitress, and the waitress says, "Okay, I'll give you a little more time," walks away. The flush the man out in the open technique is this.
Oh, this is a good one.
The woman goes, okay, here we go. The truth is, she's talking to herself. I'm just slowing down in slow motion. She says to herself, I sat through that, and then I watched him do that and not be very sensitive, so I'm going to tell the truth. Do you know what? I came on this date because I was interested, but I find that once we're sitting in this restaurant, you're just talking about yourself. It's like, it doesn't seem like you have very much interest in me, and then the waitress walks up, and you're not paying any attention to her, and she's a human being. She's got a lot of people that wait on here, and you know what? I'm concerned. Well, here's the two possible responses. Response number one is, what's with you? You women are so critical. I mean, what is this, the age of women and men are nothing and we're just all bad and you're one of those women? I mean, come on now, give us a break. That's option number one.
And option number one actually translates, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not really interested that you're feeling uncomfortable with my behavior right now. I don't really care.
Right, so shut up.
Right.
Don't confront me
So
about
they're showing you who they are right there. Yeah, okay.
Here's option number two. Oh my, you know what? I'm a little embarrassed right now. I mean, I know I got overexcited there. I could even tell in the back of my mind, but I was so excited to be with you. And you know, you're so right about being not sensitive to that waitress. You know, I must say I'm embarrassed, but I'm grateful that you would pause and tell me the truth about this. And this is my work. I've got, you know, you've caught me in some very significant imperfections, and all I can tell you is no matter if this is our last date or how many dates we go on or whatever, you keep talking to me. I really appreciate it. It really helps me wake up, and thank you. Now that's a fundamental action there.
That would be, there could possibly be a second date.
That's right.
Right.
Because without it,
right.
What mountain are you trying to climb there?
Well, yes, I think
not you, but I mean.
No, I learned how to do that.
These people don't necessarily improve, but the second option is that man is open to listening to, in this case, the woman. She needs that as much as she needs anything. She needs a man to be willing to listen, and if he's incorrect, and it's actual, he needs to admit it, and she needs him to admit it. That man can grow, that man can change. That's one of the powers of being in a couple, that if you're both being honest and you're communicating, you both get to grow. And it's a miracle of being a couple. But if you don't have that, you're going to perish. That thing's going down.
Right. When there's only one person doing the growing,
that's right.
It's disastrous.
It's really rough.
But let's then ask because I meet a lot of women that in person or just on Facebook, where they're in a relationship or married for a long time, and they just feel invisible. And I suppose a man can feel this too. I'm not going to say this is just one gender that experiences this feeling, but that they feel that ball's been dropped. They don't notice them anymore. They don't say, "Gosh, honey, you look beautiful today" anymore. And that's what makes a person feel invisible, really, is when people just take you for granted. When you're in a, I mean, I've been married now. I've been with Todd for 9 years, and he's a wonderful husband. But every now and then, because our love languages are different, he's not a big word person. He's a do-me person, not do-me, but he do for me. Everyone's howling out there right now. Yes, it's
a beautiful quality,
and that's.
But it's not a standalone. It doesn't.
But it's how he has learned, and in his 59 years, he just turned 60. That's how he shows me that he loves me, is that he does things for me. If I just think about something, it's almost like he reads my mind and he goes and he builds it or he makes it happen, and I think, okay. That's my I love you. That's because I'm the person that says the words. But one thing I have learned about the words is that words without action mean nothing. I mean, if someone's saying all the right words to you, but their actions aren't backing that up, take it from an actress, it's just dialogue. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything. So one thing that I discovered when I read that wonderful book, The 5 Love Languages, was that we speak a different language in love. And when I learned what the things he does for me means, I stopped needing the words. Because I learned to recognize the caring and the love.
You could feel the caring.
But that doesn't mean it all just magically went away. Yeah. Sometimes I'll say to him, "Does anybody around here miss me at all or love me at all?" I've been, and he laughs because I'm making a joke out of it, But I think that it's really important for couples to recognize each other's needs in that way, that simple way, and give that to them. And
yes.
you know, even if it's not your way. Oh, my husband needs acts of service, let's say. He likes it when I cook. He likes it when I'm a wife. And, you know, I've always been a career girl, and since I've been married to Todd, I'm a wife. I'm a career girl, too. But I know that that's what makes him happy, so I have my mind wrapped around that, and I do it, and I do it with love. I cook, you know, do the things that make him happy. He loves to get dinner in bed or breakfast in bed. So I never did that before, but I do it now all the time because I know that that's what makes him feel loved. Do you see what I'm saying?
Love it.
But that's what
it's not
everybody...
the be-all and end-all.
No.
But it's, I mean...
But it's made our relationship better.
That's precious, you know. I mean, there's a lot of ways, different ways to look at love, and it's a lot of love is the actions we do to produce an effect called love. I mean, I didn't invent this myself. A wonderful teacher taught me this. But so love it's a verb. It's an actions we take to produce an effect called love. So everything you describe, what Todd does for you, really in his heart is going on. His caring is going on, and there's a lot of couples. And I'm not talking about male-female or female-female or male-male. I'm talking about committed couples and committed friendships. These are all where the friendship is real. That to be able to identify that underlying caring and do acts of caring, that's part of what love is. You care about someone, that's natural, that's a gift. And you care, and you act out your caring. It's a natural process, that is. But there's other things, like to produce love, one has to reduce the fears of one partner, increase the security of one's partner, be intimate, be communicative. There's a series of actions, and there's 4 of them. So if a couple's in a long-term relationship and they care about love, there's a lot of things that need to take place. A very simple thing that needs to take place as each individual becomes more of who they are and more of themselves and more conscious and more awake and more sensitive to what's going on and not so obsessed with the past or the future, if only I had this, or God, this was done to me, and could just show up in the moment. As you show up in the moment, the beauty of the world gets unveiled. So you and I are doing this thing, and this is great fun. But what do I get? I mean, same thing happened last night. The 3 of us were sitting at the table, Kim, you and I, and we're talking, and it was the conversation was fascinating. But what was really fascinating to me also was I'm just looking at my beautiful Kim and beautiful you, and I'm going, am I in heaven? I mean, this is, you know, and today, you know, we're in the studio and all the family that's here, and so as you start waking up, as you start getting more sensitive and you start paying attention to your partner, you get the real goodies, which is the beauty of who they are and the amount of beauty that is unfolding, and you get to see things like caring. You get to feel things like caring because you're paying attention, because you're in the moment. And then also, the more accepting of self you do, those who go on a I want to accept myself discovery program, they're going to run into how our moods oscillate, how up and down we actually are, how I can feel happy and have a great day, or feel frightened and worried about, am I going to be okay tomorrow? And, you know, the oscillations we do. Well, if you accept the fear parts, the angry parts, then you're involved in a process called getting free. Because if you can do that for yourself, then the vicissitudes of one's partner, they're not such a big deal. Oh, look at this. She's really upset today. Well, I know what it's like to be upset. I'll just be present with her upset.
Right.
I'll just be the safe space.
You mean not try to fix it, change it, just be a good listener. You know, that's an interesting thing, because I do think that's kind of it's in all of us, but it sort of is a man thing. Men have the need to feel like they need to do something about it. And so sometimes women, we just really want to say how we feel, and we're not looking to be fixed, we're just looking to be heard. And we certainly want to be seen, and you know,
that's very important, because for example, like I wanted to be a doctor when I was a young kid, and so I've been in the profession of trying to help people, and here's one of the things I've noticed. It's very challenging to help someone change, even a habit, a nutritional habit. And it seems like the only leverage that I actually can do is over myself. And they're long-term projects, and they're moment-to-moment projects, and if I can change anybody, thus do something, yes, it's wonderful that men are capable and out there doing what we're doing, but in a relationship, how much can I change you in the moment? I can't. How much can I change myself in the moment? The most I can possibly do is be a safe place, an accepting place for what's going on in my moment. Like fear, if I'm afraid. The best I can do is I can't say to myself, now you get rid of that fear and you be happy right now. That doesn't work. I can't change myself in the moment, but I can recognize what I can feel the fear, and I can accept it. That's the most leverage I can do to myself. And it's the most leverage, anyone who understands that can sit there and listen. Because being safe, well, one thing I've learned is that if I listen, the person figures it out for themselves. Because their mind is best geared to figure it out, number one, if there's anything to figure out. But we all like to be, in moments of being unhappy, we like to be listened to.
Right. And if you want someone to help you, you can ask for it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really what a lot of women are afraid to do, is ask for the help.
And men.
Men too? See, I'm not in the inside of a men's mind, so it's a good thing to hear that.
Oh yes, I mean, Kimmy will tell you, I've come to her and say, honey, I need help.
And you're the doctor. So see, it's really, you know the answers, but you also are a human being.
Yeah,
and when
really.
it's your own stuff, I know even with I feel great. If somebody comes to me for a session, I know without a doubt, I'm going to help that person.
That's right. Because they've come to you and they want help, they've admitted it, they're open to it.
And I'm not emotionally involved.
Yes.
So I can listen to the story and not wear it, try it on. I can listen to it, and I have a different point of view from actually being inside of it. I actually also know that things that people need to change are not something, everything's learned. They learned it somewhere. I have a theory that people learn most things from the age of 1 to 7, let's say, right? So people they know their life isn't working, or they know they're afraid of something, they smoke, they can't stop, they can't lose weight, they're afraid, so phobias become out of control, they want to get over grief, whatever it is, I know I am going to be able to help them unlock that. Now, if it's my stuff, oh, physician, heal thyself, right? But I ask for the help. I do. I ask for, sometimes I just want to be heard, and sometimes I want to be helped. And I will ask for that help. But there's a lot of trust involved in that, you know what I mean? There's the person you're with or that you're asking for the help actually can or wants to help you. But relationships are so important, because it isn't just about a love relationship. Intimate relationships, as you said, can be intimacy, can be with your friends, there's different levels, with your boss. It doesn't mean an intimate relation. It just means that there's a lot of trust and information that passes between you. Not that it's intimate in a sexual way or anything like that. But I think that it's confusing for people, when they do get hurt, and then they just go down and they can't get back up. So I think what we've talked about today for that is really important. I don't know if we have any questions, but it would be great if we kind of could take a temperature on what people are feeling right now, or what you're thinking right now. And if you are, just let us know. Someone will run that question over to us.
That's great. Yes, absolutely.
But I just want to say that last night, I was watching TV, and then the TV went off, and you put on music, and the music was playing, and it was very pleasant and beautiful, like love songs, and we were getting ready to eat dinner, and I was just thinking, oh, this is so great. And there was a song that came on, don't remember what it was, never heard it before, and it was so romantic and beautiful. And so I was looking at my phone, and all of a sudden I looked up, and I see you and my sister slow dancing over by the table in the living room, and I was so moved by that, because actually it could make me cry right now, which I don't want to do.
Me too.
Yeah, but so what I did was I took my phone and I taped it.
We did.
Because neither one of you even knew I was in the room.
Right,
I mean, I was there clearly, but you went into your own world with each other. So I took my phone and I taped about 40 seconds of the dance, and I sent it to Todd, my husband, because it is just such a beautiful thing to witness. Now, it's such a small thing, but it's a huge thing because people don't do it.
Let me break that one down for you.
Please do, because I would love for people to start teaching their yes, I would love to hear about that.
For one thing, Kim was in a special good mood because you were there, and she loves being with her sister, and that was part of it. And then there was a beautiful song, I know. I purposely put it on because I love that song, and she does too. And she came over to me and said, can I have this dance?
Oh, I missed that.
Yes, yes.
I missed the cue.
That took place. She walked out of the kitchen where she was preparing dinner and came over to me and said, can I have this dance? And my first impulse was...
Why?
Call it embarrassment, call it fear of intimacy.
Because I was there?
No. I was settled into my self or whatever. It was minor, but it was there. And then I said to myself, do you realize, I mean, this is in slow motion, it happened much quicker than this. She said, do you realize what's going on here? Kim has come over to ask you to dance. Man, you rise to this occasion. And I did. So it all took place in a microsecond. And then as soon as we started doing it, it just got better and better and better. So what you were filming was exactly what was taking place, because I surrendered to it. I surrendered to the invitation of someone. I just wanted to break it down because sometimes these things, they represent a challenge like that. Oh, thank you, thank you. I just want to let you know, as life is unfolding in real time, I was, of course, having a good time, but I had to open. I had to come out of my shell, and then, so this happens in a million different ways. It can happen when you've had a little gruff time together, and you go, I don't want to do the gruff time.
Oh, I don't want to do the dance.
I don't want to do the I don't want to do the gruff thing.
Oh, okay.
I want to be nicer. And it's hard to turn that ship. I mean, there's all kinds of examples.
But we can turn the ship.
We can, and that's the thing. And that on a microscopic level, on a molecular level, I went through that moment of hesitation. You know, I have to get off the couch, you know. But I have learned, so this was a learned thing. I learned, look what's happening in your life right now. Kim is inviting you to dance. You go for that. You go for that. You move towards that, even if you're a little... And then, of course, it turned out to be as rich for me. At the end of the day, as we said goodnight, I said, thank you, honey, for inviting me to dance. It was the absolute highlight of my day. It was the absolute best thing that happened to me all day. I just want to, you know, sometimes we have to surrender to someone's invitation. I don't...
Okay, so I would challenge you to try this. If you're at home and you haven't slow danced with your mate, or even if you have in a really long time, because I was absolutely moved by this moment, witnessing this moment.
So was I.
And I would say, because I'm going to do this when I get home, when I get back to Las Vegas, Todd Fisher, I'm going to ask him for that dance, and I'm sure he's going to be like, what?
That's the thing. That's right. Well, I had a mini response. I know Kim well enough, so this is not a brand new thing for us. So, but yes, whether it's that, but let's get it down to day, because that particular choice is, talk about getting more skillful at life, getting more effective at life, and creating the life that you want. Let me give you a harder and more common example, if I may.
Okay.
And we've got a couple questions here.
Yes, we do.
Like Friday night, I come home, I'm tired, and who knows why I live this blessed life when I get to be in business with my son and my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter is here every day after school. Kim comes in, but I come home Friday night and I'm a little tired and I'm a little worried about the future. So, oh, this is a great spin-off.
Right.
When I get tired, I can invent a story then. So many of us can. And I was sitting there in our living room, same one that we were in last night, and I was starting to sink into
the what ifs. Yeah, but not the good what ifs. The yeah.
And you know, those are the thought parts. The challenging part is the fear, is the worry. And I'm going to myself, take yourself by your bootstraps and pull yourself up. You've been down this road. Don't go there. It's not going to help you. And you've got Friday night, and you've been, you know.
You're about to ruin a perfectly good date night, right? And why? That's right.
And I tell you, it's taken me decades to develop this skill. And I said, don't do it. And so what did I do? I actually asked him if I could massage her back.
Right.
Because I know she likes that. Because I didn't know how to talk, and I didn't want to share the ruminations. And it took sort of a mini monumental effort to turn the tide and go do that, make that choice. And as soon as I started getting into it, it just increased. And by the time we went to bed, I was totally out of the mood.
Yeah.
And when I went to sleep that night, I said, David, thank you. You've come such a long way. You rescued yourself.
Right.
I want to mention this because every single person, we face these choices. I mean, yesterday I heard a story, and I heard some stories about your life, where you made courageous choices.
Not easy, yes.
Not easy.
Right.
But the neatest thing about life is every one of us is going to be confronted by, well, I'm confronted every day, I can say this, by 10 choices that I can make in a day that's going to stop myself from being in an ordinary or uncomfortable or detrimental space and choose. Even if I start faking it till I make it. I love that.
Fake it till you make it's been around a long, long time, and I love it too.
So there's the mini choices, and you want to build the life you want? Start with the mini choices. The life that everyone is in is the perfect venue to start. You don't have to go to India to get a teacher. You can start, because I assure you that the life you're in is the perfect place to begin those mini choices. Should we take these questions?
Yes, because gosh knows how much time we have
left. Next time when you come in, please
I'm gonna
let us see you.
Yes, I have to put glasses on to see it. Although she wrote nice and big, I might.
Yeah.
David, how can a husband help his wife during menopause without being annoying? You know what? Let's switch over to that. And guys, honestly, if you're out there watching, don't tune out, because this is really, really, really good stuff. You need to understand what we go through, and you can make it easier on yourself. But this is such an excellent question. How can a husband help his wife during menopause without being annoying?
Wow.
Isn't this a great question?
I spent 25 years of my career, and this is the core question. And there's many different aspects. Let me give you a practical one.
Okay, and because I just also want to say for the people that are watching from my Facebook page, Dr. David Rosensweet has written books on menopause. He is, in my opinion, just the premier expert on menopause. And so you want to make sure you go over to I Wonder Doctor, the Facebook page, if you have questions for him. And iwonderdoctor.com is where this all takes place. So
and menopausemethod.com as well.
Menopausemethod.com, right. So let's answer this, because I have a feeling this came in from a man.
Yeah.
Could be, right?
Love it.
Not that it matters.
Well, the time of menopause, colloquially, it's called the change of life. And it really is for men and women. And what is the change? Well, in optimal situations, you've grown up, you've found work to do that can put a roof over your head and food on the table, and you've succeeded at it. Maybe you've even raised children or not, it doesn't matter that much. Then what's next? Oh, about the age of menopause, there's a change that takes place where there is momentum in your own being, in your own soul, to come on home to the divine. It's called spiritual growth. I want to define that at one point because it's always so abstract. In fact, we've been defining it all along. Spiritual growth can be, you find yourself starting to get gruff with your partner and you say, no, I'm not going to be gruff. I'm going to back off, go take care of myself, and if I've got a request, I'm going to come back kindly. That's spiritual growth.
Yeah.
But sometimes, for men and women, I mean, some people call it the midlife crisis when it's happening for men. Well, what the heck is a midlife crisis? That deeper needs start emerging at this midstream. In fact, for a man and a woman, especially those who have really loved being parents, all of a sudden the nest starts to empty, and you're meeting up with this new person called yourself and your partner that isn't raising kids and making meals and going shopping and going to work.
Yeah, the dynamics change.
They change.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more space. And when the space opens up, the general call of life is come to know yourself, accept yourself more, develop unconditional love for yourself, become a whole person in that way, and then you're going to really be able to be there for your partner. Well, what kind of training are you going to have? Well, I delivered a lot of babies at home, 400 of them at the beginning of my career. And I also went through a pregnancy with my wife at that time as well. And what I learned was this is a very sensitive time. And many husbands could say, well, my wife has gotten so grumpy. And many menopausal husbands could say, well, my wife has deteriorated so much in so many ways. I'd like to frame it another way. She's got energies unfolding inside of her that's saying, I want the real thing. If I'm unhappy, it's because I've got more of a connection to make with myself. And I want some things to take place in our relationship. So the greatest thing that a man can give to his wife at this time, or same identical sex partners, it doesn't matter. The gender is irrelevant. Anyone in a committed relationship is really what we're talking about. When someone gets uncomfortable, you've just hired a teacher. You just paid, you just were able to hire the greatest teacher on the planet. You got someone who you're close to that's upset. And what do you need to learn? Unconditional love. So you've got a teacher that you've hired to teach you unconditional love. So if a woman, so your freedom is going to depend on your ability to accept exactly where your partner is. And some partners, they go into a couple years of illness. It just isn't menopause, or that can happen at any time. This is your teacher. How can you get bigger and accept exactly where your partner is exactly? And don't say, well, life will be good when you're different. When you get out of this phase.
So it's actually about not reacting.
Yes.
Okay, because, and
about
forgive
accepting.
me because I know this question came in for David, but as a woman who has experienced and still experience going through menopause, if there's one thing that will set me off is waiting until I'm in that really bad mood phase, or I'm not feeling good about myself because I gained weight and it's not going anywhere, and I start to get down on myself about that, and I get grumpy, or or I just feel uncontrolled. It's like I'm not in control of my mind, my body, this is a phase I went through some years ago, and so if a man would say to me, wow, you are really grouchy today. I didn't do anything. I mean, I know you're in menopause, but it's like, Oh my God!
Uh-oh.
I just want to take out my revolver,
There comes
loaded
the flamethrower.
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't you just shoot a flamethrower at me?
Exactly. So I think that this is a great question, and there was our long answer from you, but
let me give you a short answer.
Yeah.
I discovered that somewhere along the line that I did not want to be a slave to other people's ups and downs. That I was captured by my own self.
Yeah.
And that I wanted to get so free that anyone that I knew, and especially those who were close to me, could be on any place that they were inside, and I would be fine. And so it's a wonderful thing to take place at menopause, but this is a big subject. I want to get a little more practical. Buy the book I wrote called Happy, Healthy Hormones. You will know what your wife is going through, and you'll see the remedies, because treating a woman in menopause with bioidentical hormones and treating a man in andropause with bioidentical hormones is so important.
Wow.
It's such a big deal.
Yeah.
Because we didn't used to live past menopause, very rare event, and now we are, and that's fantastic. But you can't do it without these hormones and have healthy bones and brain and vagina and libido and energy and cognition and arteries. You can't do it unless you replenish those hormones. So get hep to hormones, I'm telling you. When they're done properly.
And with the right doctor.
Yes,
that
you do.
is huge.
You got to have someone who's taken on, I mean, when you want brain surgery, you want someone who's had about 20 years of training and experience.
And that's
and when you want someone in menopause,
do,
you want someone who's taken a very special interest in it. We train doctors in how to do this. I love our method because it's so exacting, and it's like an airplane pilot. We have a checklist.
That's why you call it the target method.
Yeah, we changed
So I'm going to just say, if a man can just tell his wife that they understand the best they can, I feel you. I know you're not feeling great today. I'm okay with that. What can I do for you today?
What can I do?
What can I do for you today to make your life happy and better? If we could all just wake up with that thought with our spouse every day, life would be completely different. I try to wake up with that thought in my head every day, but I mean, that's some serious training I've been doing. But if a man could just let his wife know that what she's feeling is okay, don't take it personally, because it doesn't have anything to do with you. And
I'd like to say
ask how he
something else.
can
I'd like
make
to
her
say something
happy.
else about it.
Yeah.
It's so easy to dismiss one's partner when they're upset. And sometimes at this change of life, things that have been swept under the rug, neglects, not building the ability to communicate. When a woman is upset, 99% of the time, when some woman in my life is upset, I go, pay attention. You're about to hear what she's upset about, and don't be totally surprised if you're not part of what she's upset. And we can build up things in relationships that are 10 years, 20 years, and they can start coming out at menopause like they should. So don't just say, oh, you're just in menopause, you're just upset.
A lot of people do that.
I know. Well, I'm saying the opposite. You said it, and that's what reminded me of it, is take on this attitude called, uh-oh, we got a reconnoitering to do here. Maybe she's upset because there's something valid she's upset about. And
be okay with that.
Be the best you can with it.
Yeah, I mean,
take it on.
But it's hard not to take things personally when all of a sudden your wife is acting in a way that you're not used to seeing her.
Or maybe she is putting her finger on something that is personal. I mean,
and that's okay
Kim
too.
can put a lot of things, point a finger towards me where I have been insensitive, unconscious, uncaring. I have been a lifelong journey. Not every man is like that. Not every woman is like that. But anyway, boy, big topic.
I know. That's a whole show right there.
There we go.
A good question.
Let's take another one.
Thank you.
Here's from Dorothy.
Dorothy has asked, when you're feeling upset, sad, what have you, I love this, but you know it's your insecurities that's trying to make you feel different. Should you feel that feeling? Should you feel that feeling? Or should you try to accept that it's not the truth and move on from that? Great question.
Love it.
Wow. Dorothy, good one. This is great.
Well, let's start with the word insecurity, if I might. Is that okay?
Sure.
let's just follow the trail exactly as Dorothy said it. When you're feeling upset, so she's noticed that she feels upset, sad, what have you, but you know it's your insecurities that's trying to make you feel different. Should you feel that feeling? And yes, the answer is yes. Because you've made it to the point where you know that you're upset. That's general. Sad is more specific. Insecurity is interesting because that's now you've got sad and you've got insecurity. Well, if you inspect insecurity, and you might do this right now, Dorothy, is when you feel insecure, what do you feel? And because we're not in active communication, I can't see you or hear you, I'm going to make a guess that when you feel insecure, you feel afraid or fear. Okay, sad, fear, you're at the bottom line. There's nothing underneath that. And this is the opportunity to feel exactly what you're feeling. Okay, I feel sad, I feel fear. Here's what I'm going to do. Feel sad and feel fear. I'm going to be the safe space for exactly where I am. And then you say, or should you try to accept? Yes, exactly. That's what acceptance is.
Yes.
You let the feeling be. You said it earlier. I forget the term. I loved it.
Being comfortable with it?
Yeah, be uncomfortable with your
uncomfortability.
And it's not so much you're going to get comfortable. I love the saying, but ultimately the details of that is you're willing to stay present with exactly who you are.
At that moment.
At that moment,
right.
Or for however many moments it's going to go on. That's called acceptance. That's an aspect of learning. You're in school to learn unconditional love, and you're doing it.
I like this. Try to accept that it's not the truth.
And you know what? It's not the truth.
Okay.
It's the truth of the moment.
Right.
But it's not the truth of who you are.
I love that. Dorothy, take notes, because here's the gold right here.
Because the truth of who you are is living energy of love. And when you feel peace and you feel happy and you're having fun, that's who you are. And you can even feel deeper than that. I mean, you can be moved by a tree or moved by thoughts of the divine, or, you know, it goes really deep. Love. That's who you really are. And
move on from that, which is what I believe that is what happens. When you do what he is telling you to do and explaining to you, you do move on from that, because eventually you accept this feeling as being a feeling that you're having at this moment, but it is not who you are. And once you accept that it is just a feeling, it's okay to have that feeling, then you will just naturally move on from that. So
precisely.
I hope that is a good answer, Dorothy, because it's a great question. And we have another one.
Okay, this has got a paperclip in it.
Heather. Hi, you guys. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
It's right. I have a tremendous difficulty trying to shed
the
abuse from childhood. Wow. You know, there's going to be a lot of people that really relate to this, Heather. Where I was told repeatedly I was ugly and not wanted by anyone. So, I have lived my life believing, truly believing, I am just that. And of course, Heather, why wouldn't you? Because no one's taught you any different. I am an empath and take everything into my being, from all the evil against one another to now the earth is being destroyed. Is there a new path that I can find?
Love it.
Yeah.
Because, Heather, because I do the work that I do and CAC does the work that she does, this is very common. And in general, we've grown up in a very early stage of human development. What? We've got computers, we've got TV, we got airplanes, rockets? No. Consciousness-wise, love-wise, golden rule-wise, integrity-wise, although some human beings are doing a really good job, not perfect, but all those, there's a very, very high percentage of the human race that are not doing a good job. In fact, they're doing an awful job. So this story of growing up from parents being insecure, we know your parents, you know, we know what went on. They were very insecure with themselves. They probably weren't doing very well with each other, and they were projecting onto their kids that their kids weren't good enough. And they teach their kids shame. And this is some of the language of shame. Shame is the feeling like there's something wrong with me. Well, nice words. Anyone who has inspected shame, that means they realize they have shame and they feel shame. It's one of the strongest uncomfortable. It's the feeling something's wrong with me. And it's a very prevalent thing, as many psychologists have pointed out. And we could say, well, you never should have had this happen to you, but I won't say that, because the whole human race is trying to discover, and we're on a journey, an eternal journey, to realize the truth of who we are. And so there are people who have started exactly with what went on for them and have taken that grist for the mill in and worked with exactly what went on. So, for example, if you were in this room, or let's say to you, if you're watching on Facebook, in fact, you might try this. Heather, close your eyes and see if you can go to the worst place here. The feeling that I'm ugly, the feeling that I'm not wanted. And just breathe and feel it and stay with it. And I wish we were connected by Skype or something like that, and we're working on the technology, we'll get there. But let yourself go to the worst case scenario, which is not the thought so much, not the story, it's the feelings. And here your childhood has the perfect story in it to take you into that level of pain. And feel what you feel and accept it in the moment to the best you can. What that means is you allow the shame, it's just as Kat was saying, it's just a feeling. It's just energy. It's the part of you that's hurting. You left childhood hurting. And it seems impossible when you're in hurt like that. It almost seems eternal, but once you get the skills, I promise you, you can heal all of that hurt. And you will have learned, as you heal it, that you become stronger and more awake and more sensitive and more capable. That hurt of yours, that shame of yours, when you learn the skills, will be the very catalyst that can take you to self-love. Let's do the self-love right now. If you're able to contact the shame, the feeling that there's something wrong with me, and just breathe and feel shame. And breathe and feel shame. And breathe and feel exactly what you're feeling. No agenda. No agenda that in the next 5 minutes you're going to feel better, or the next week you're going to feel better. The process here, the practice, is to be able to identify what's the uncomfortable feeling. Shame's the bottom line. The concept that I feel ugly, when you feel the feelings associated with ugly, is I'm unacceptable, that's shame. There's something wrong with me. Breathe and feel it. And your practice would become is to get to accept this part of you that's hurting. This part of you that feels exactly what you're feeling. And whether it takes you a week, a day, or a year, you're committed to feeling every single part of yourself. It's how we become a whole person. And how do we accept it? We allow it to be exactly what it is. Kat was explaining this very beautifully just moments ago. You don't try and change it. You don't say, now I'm going to be positive. You just feel the feeling. And if the thoughts start carrying you away, I am ugly, nobody accepts me, or I've always been ugly, I'm always incompetent, the whole world is going. And you catch yourself when you spin out to the whole world is ugly, the whole world is failing. Let's get it up close and personal. The evil that you're wanting, that you're compelled to look out at the world, the elephant in the room is the shame. There's something wrong with me. Feel it, accept it, and practice that. Because these things, they're deep within us. And if you wind up accepting yourself exactly for who you are, it's not the word. You start opening up to what's underneath and who really is you, because, as real as it seems, that shame is not real. We're coming from a place of insecurity. We want to grow to security, self-love. We take the action of self-love, and when you start accepting yourself, you gain access to the whole yourself, because you're not trying to repress anything, because you don't need to. You can let anything come to the surface. Well, you get exposure to the truth of who you are. You get exposed to the living energy of love and your connection with the divine. And that's fun. And you see how beautiful you are, and how beautiful the world is, and how much pleasure there is, and how much love there is. I know that's trying to paint a pretty picture.
No, but
I'm trying to take...
I love this. If I could just say something to Heather, too.
Please.
Okay. You see, my work, I deal with the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the front of your brain. The subconscious is the back of your mind. The front of your mind is the conscious mind that takes in everything since you're a little person to now. So because your parents treated you like this, because your parents said these words to you, because your parents are an authority figure, like a teacher, a parent, a doctor when you're young. So if they said it, it must be true. That goes right into the hard drive of your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind doesn't stop to think about whether something's true or not. It simply accepts it as a fact. It's just been imprinted on you. So knowing that your subconscious mind just took that in as truth, I would just like to say to you, here's the fact. Just because someone says it doesn't make it true. And always remember that, because people will say unkind things to us all the time. Consciously and unconsciously, people will say things. And I always love to say that to myself. I am reprogramming my mind all the time by saying, just because you said it doesn't make it true. Because what's my alternative to that is feeling really hurt. And that's okay too. It's a feeling. I'm feeling it, just like we're talking about. But I also have the wherewithal to say to myself, and just because someone else said it doesn't make it so. Because that isn't true, Heather. You aren't ugly. You aren't unlovable.
You're a spark of the divine.
You are a spark of the divine, and that is really what it comes down to. And you are loved. I just want to say that, because there isn't a moment in this world that we are not loved by something that's much more important than a human being next to us. This is a very spiritual feeling. But, I just hope that this answer, helped you for now. And again, this is a really great thing to explore. But Heather, it isn't your truth. This was their truth at that moment. And here's another thing that set me free, and I hope that this will help you. And we don't have to agree on everything, do we? I mean,
you and I?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you're saying, oh my gosh, what's she saying?
No, I like it.
But okay, Heather, I just want to say this to you, that just because someone said that to you, even if it was a parent, even if it was their truth at that moment, our parents, or the people that raise us, they do their best. And sometimes that's as good as their best was. And the thing that saves me is knowing that that was their best. It wasn't good enough, but I'm in charge of me now. And I am going to heal this. And of course, for me, I pray, because God is very much an assist of my healing. It's a co-healing, I like to call it, because I'm aware of it, I'm asking, but we can heal ourselves with it, because our minds are complicated and they lie to us, and we need to learn how that happens. But this person who said these things to you and made you feel this way, this was their best. Not very good, but you know what, again, didn't make it true. All right, you are.
There's one other thing I'd like to say about this is, this is what your parents were seeing and feeling about themselves and about life. And that's why I tried to say that there's a lot of primitive consciousness goes on. Parents who take the next step in their growth, when their children are born, they see God in the children. They see it, they feel it. It's so dramatic, and they see their children are beautiful, and this is happening all the time. You didn't have that happen. Many of us didn't have that happen. But I'm an authority figure. I'm a doctor, and I want to give you my diagnosis. This is inaccurate. And what you're going to find as you heal is you're beautiful. Well, what a radical thing to say. Am I just making that up? No, I want to tell you what the truth is. Every human being on earth, beneath our surface pains and ripples, we're absolutely beautiful and rich. You can think, you can talk, you can walk, you can breathe. You probably care for people and things. And that's the truth. That's my diagnosis, because I know it, because I'm totally safe in doing that, because we all are. And then the other thing about being an empath, of course, I'm very familiar with that term but it's a certain degree of sensitivity. You can be picking up what other people are feeling, or you can picking up what you're projecting. So I'd stay, if I could give a recommendation, I'd stay away from what you see out there. If you're feeling uncomfortable about the world, it's always possible to see the pain, because the suffering is so pervasive these days, but there's other stuff going on in you and in this world. So I know, I don't want to ramble on and on about this.
And the last thing I want to say is that just because that's someone else's truth about you at that given moment, again, you will always need to know your own truth about who you are, and we all do need to do that. Because then we're not at the mercy of unkindness. And because when you know who you are, and we just told you who you are, and what you're entitled to, right? Then what other people say doesn't matter, and even what other people said to us in the past can become insignificant. It just takes the work. I hope we've given you some tools there. We have another question.
Well, before we go to this one, you asked a question last night that I thought was fascinating, that I thought many people could benefit from.
Right.
You said, well, I'm through menopause.
Yeah.
I've made it through menopause.
I'm through it, he said.
It never stopped. I mean, you peaked out, men and women, in your early 30s at the most robust levels of hormones, or maybe in your 20s, that you ever had. And from that moment on, for a lot of reasons, there's a steady decline. At the 50-year mark, the decline is very significant, especially when the periods stop, but that decline never stops.
Right.
So when you look, for example, at a lot of older folks, they're in walkers, they're wearing diapers called Depends, some are in wheelchairs. How'd that happen? So much of it had to do from loss of hormones. They lost muscles, they lost bone, when they lost their muscles, they couldn't stand up stably, they fell and fractured a hip because they had bone loss. Their vaginas had gotten way too dry. They started irritating their bladder. They started getting bladder issues. Their coronary and other arteries started developing atherosclerosis. The cognition started to slip. So here's the moral of the story. Learn about hormones. Read our book or any book. The name of our book is Happy, Healthy Hormones. Intersect wherever you are. I mean, who did I start treating? Your mom.
Oh yeah, at what age?
89.
My mother, he treated.
And my own mother.
At 89, and it made such a difference.
And we have a video of your mom who she couldn't get out of a chair.
I remember.
And then we treated her with some hormones, and for 6 months later, and we've got a video on one of our websites, I think it's still up there, where she gets out of she was sitting on a low couch, and she put her hands out, and she rose up without using her hands.
Right, and she couldn't get out with help before that.
That's
so
right.
That was that was great.
No matter where you are, you want to start moving those hormones back towards reasonableness. That's what good treating of menopause is. So no one's ever through menopause. They may be through the raucous hot flash era and the raucous sleep disturbance era. And a lot of women never get through that. I've seen women in their 80s who still have hot flashes.
Right.
But don't think because your hot flashes stopped, oh, I made it through menopause. There's no such thing as I made it through menopause, any more than there's a man who made it through menopause.
Right, but mine was like, I made it through menopause. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't, hurt myself too badly. That's what I meant. Of course, I still, there's still things that I notice. And I actually need to talk to you about the hormones, because that is something that I definitely want to look more into that. As you know, I've just been last year I lost my mother-in-law, Debbie Reynolds, and my sister-in-law, Carrie Fisher, suddenly, and it was a year of, it was like it's like a balloon where you just untie the knot and it flies around the room and then there it is, right? And that was me. It was just this year that I'm starting to feel like myself again, but I think it just rocked my hormonal system also.
It does.
Because, you know, that level of grief, I got very depressed. I didn't teach all year because I feel like I need to be with it, you know, to teach people. And I need to practice what I preach. So I am back, but, you know, I do want to investigate the hormones. Right now, Julie is on the phone, or excuse me, on the Facebook. I'm on
tamoxifen.
Oh, tamoxifen for 10 years. What can I use for supplements?
Well, we'd want to know more about why you're on tamoxifen, and you know, sometimes that's used because there was a prior history of breast cancer. So this is a technical issue. Okay. And this is a highly individual issue. And I'm assuming, what can I use for supplements? Well, everyone should be on a good multivitamin and vitamin C and vitamin D and a whole bunch of stuff. But as far as hormones go, we need to know a lot more about you, Julie. And because I can tell you this, every physician who's highly trained in treating women in menopause has a certain number of women that have had breast cancer that they're treating, also with bioidentical hormones. Now, I do that I've done that in a highly individualized way, and there are so many women who they went through the illness, they went through good treatment, whatever it took, chemotherapy, radiation surgery, whatever it took. And now on the other side, they're having a lot of trouble with hormones, and I know that the traditional way to address it is just block the estrogen receptors. There's so much more to it. So I'd rather take this in our menopause call-in, which yes, in a week or two, we're going to be live with an hour or a half hour.
Is it always on a Thursday?
It's always on a Thursday.
So Julie, you have to check back on the what's the website?
menopausemethod.com.
menopausemethod.com, and I'm sure your
and
Facebook page. Yes,
we'll go live on Facebook. And what I'd like to do is, before I would zero in on what your situation is, if you go to menopausemethod.com, there's a place for Ask the Doc, or on iwonderdoctor.com, there's a place for Ask the Doc. Put in a lot of details. Why you're on tamoxifen, what the whole story is, why you went on it originally. And
yes,
I won't be able to zero in on exact, but I can get you in the ballpark of the real answer to this and why you are seeking, what kind of supplements you're talking about, and whether you're talking about hormones or not. I can zero in on a much more informed answer, because the stakes are high.
On Julie, if you go to iwonderdoctor.com, and then there's a space in there that says Ask the Doc, and that's what he's talking about too. Ask there. There's a little note there. I didn't know if that was important.
No, that was my
your notes. Mary Lou asks, I thought you couldn't take hormones if there's breast cancer history. That's a great question.
Yes, there is. And in the world, here's some things to know. That, like when I meet up with a patient, as I have, whose mother and aunt and sister had breast cancer, before I'm going to immediately go on to treat them with hormones, we want to go really deeply into a lot of detail. But sometimes breast cancer history is what you're saying. You're not saying how close it is, how profound it is. Here's one thing, that there's studies that have been done that women who have history of breast cancer, 1 in 12 do. This is not the major determining factor. There are determining factors, and there's a long list of questions that I want to know if there is a family history of breast cancer. And then let's talk about hormones and cancer. I'm going to make an assertion here that I elaborate on in my book, is that there's no hormone that ever caused cancer. Now, you're going to say, well, there was one in 2002, the Women's Health Initiative. Yeah, there was a funky molecule in there called Provera. This was a combination of Premarin, horse urine-derived estrogen, and this artificial progestin. And that study was done, there was 2 arms to that study. In one arm of the study, there was the women who were taking Premarin alone. This is a huge number of women. And what did they find out? The women on Premarin alone, that's the horse urine-derived estrogens, 50% of which no woman's body has ever seen, they had less of an incidence of breast cancer than women who went untreated. Well, what does that tell you? Horse urine-derived estrogens treatment, you wind up with less of an incidence of breast cancer than women who went untreated. So what does that tell us about hormones causing cancer? And then it was the Prem-Pro that they had to stop the study. They didn't even stop the Premarin arm of the study because they didn't have to. They were demonstrating less of an incidence of breast cancer. Hormones don't cause cancer, but cancer does have a lot of causes. And in fact, any woman who develops breast cancer, that breast cancer has been percolating along for 10 or 15 years before it becomes visible or palpable or identifiable. So the question is, how did she develop it in the first place? And cancer is a complex illness. There's a lot of possibility. Now here's the deal with breast cancer. There's 2 types and everything in between. One type is very primitive cells. When the biopsy is done and the pathologist looks under the microscope, if someone didn't tell the pathologist that it came from the breast, they wouldn't be able to tell where it was coming from. That's undifferentiated. Those are very aggressive cancers. They don't respond to anything. Hormones are not hormones. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there's something called a well-differentiated breast cancer. When a pathologist looks under the microscope, it looks like a normal breast glandular cell. You can hardly tell the difference. They can. They're highly trained, but not in every instance. And it looks like and it behaves like a normal breast cell. It's got estrogen receptors and progesterone receptors because every month estrogen stimulates the breast to become, to start the process of becoming ready for breastfeeding. But if there isn't implantation, the second half of the cycle, that breast just goes back to original state. Those women who have well differentiated, they're called breast cancers that have developed not because of the hormone. They develop for other reasons. If you give that woman estrogen, the tumor is going to grow a little faster. That's all. So that's not all. But we have a chapter in our book on breast cancer and breast cancer risk with a lot of references. So you're saying to me, you're saying to us that you shouldn't take hormones if there's been a breast cancer history. No. That doesn't begin to tell me enough. I can say this, women who are properly treated with bioidentical hormones, they have less of an incidence of breast cancer than women who go untreated. So this is a complex, but the beautiful thing is these things can be figured out most of the time. And so that's what good physicians who are highly trained, I mean, if I can perform an appendectomy, but you wouldn't want to come to me for an appendectomy. You want to go to a surgeon that has done 1,000 appendectomies.
Right. I think that that's a mistake a lot of women do make, is just going to an MD that, you know, about their hormones, that's not invested, yeah, in a lot of training, proper training, you know. Not MDs come to get trained by people like you.
They go on to further training.
That's exactly right. But you always want to make sure that whatever doctor you're going to talk to about hormone treatment, that you get somebody who's passionate about it enough to have gone to learn from people like the man that's sitting right next to me. I think we might probably be getting close to, oh yeah. So what I want to do is say Happy International Women's Day. I don't remember ever having one of these. Maybe it's just me. I love being a woman, so you know, I'm excited that it's our International Day. And I want to say Happy International Women's Day to everybody. And I know that you have all been wishing the same thing to us. And boy, you know, I love being a woman. You know why? This is, I mean, lots of reasons, but this is the silliest one. It's true. All right, I'm going to talk right to this camera if you wouldn't. Because when a woman wakes up, no, let's just change that. When a man wakes up, that's as good as it's going to get all day. We get to make it pretty, right? We get to make it pretty. We wear makeup, and it's important for you to get up and do something for yourself and make yourself look pretty for you, so that when you walk by a mirror or see yourself somewhere, that you go, wow, I'm looking pretty good. Because what happens when you see yourself looking good is that it sends a signal to your brain, and then you feel really good. So I want you all to take care of yourselves in that way.
Can I say one thing about International Women's Day?
Yes, it's your show.
I was born into a really nice situation. My parents loved each other and they loved us, and I had a blessed childhood, and I was an adventurous guy, and I wanted to be a doctor, and I had a lot of fun. And then I turned 12, and I went, this is the coolest thing on the planet. I just discovered it. The planet's beautiful, nature's beautiful, but women, oh my God, there's something so special here. And that's been true all of my life. And so I've considered women to be God's greatest gift to men.
Well, hallelujah.
And not only that, my observation is women in so many ways are leading the world, really. And we want, my personal hope is women do what they have been doing, which was changing this thing of taking a back seat. And because in my personal experience, women have cared more about growth, have cared more about improving themselves, have cared more about other people, are stronger, more courageous, are more sensitive, more loving. There's a lot of loving men out there, and there's a lot of beautiful men, but women are a little consciously ahead. So I'm grateful, and keep taking it on, get it all back, so that this whole planet is ruled in a balanced way.
Right.
It's being created and governed in a balanced way, and that the feminine energy takes its full place, because it's in better shape in general. It just is. And so, thank you for being women.
Yes, and I would just acknowledge that the great women in my life too. My sister Kim, my girlfriends out there, is Steffi, who's probably watching this right now, and Linda, and all. I'm so blessed. I have such great girlfriends, and they mean the world to me. And so,
my daughter, Jen, my granddaughters, Molly and Maya. These are new generations.
Yes,
new things
great
happening
people
here.
Some people want to know what the doctor's name is. I'm going to tell you that right now. This is, to get a pencil or a pen out or tap into your phone, Dr. David, and that's D-E-V-E-D, Rosensweet, and he is an amazing person, being, doctor, beloved family member. And he knows so much about hormones and the human condition, and he's just fantastic. I really urge you to do your due diligence and go to iwonderdoctor.com, where you can ask questions, and there's all kinds of videos and archived things there. And they did such a beautiful job building that. And then, of course, your book.
Happy Healthy Hormones.
Happy Healthy Hormones.
MenopauseMethod.com.
At MenopauseMethod.com. Go and look that up, because most of us don't really know a lot about this. We just hear here and there. We get scared when we hear the word hormones. So go do that. And I'm Catherine Hickland. Some people have asked who I am, and so that would be people from yours. And I am a hypnotherapist, and I'm an entertainer, and I've been an actress my whole life. And when I retired from that, I really delved very, very, very deeply into my hypnosis practice, hypnotherapy, and understanding the human mind and emotions. And my book is The 30-Day Heartbreak Cure. And I am a just lover of life and an understanding person of the human race. I love you all. We both do. That's why we do the work we do. And I want to thank you for coming to be with us. Right? It was a fun time.
Yes,
and I don't live in Sarasota, where we're doing this from. I live in Las Vegas, but maybe we can do things in the future. And it was nice to meet all of you new people from David's site. And Dr. Rosensweet, you're just amazing. Thank you for all this incredible work.
Yeah. I love you, Kat.
I love you too. Okay. We love you as well. Have a great day. Make it one. How about that?